into the domain.
Oh, yes, yes.
So it makes it easy when I like.
Heather, do you want me to log in for you?
I do.
It's gonna show up as my name then, just so you know.
Is it, I know my, is it?
I
did not. Isn't that what I would need? Oh, to like forget the rest of
We're
it.
set at 11 o'clock. Oh, I know.
Oh. That's okay. Then I'm fine. That was my own thing. I just wasn't reading, you know?
Technology.
Reading is really hard.
I have an 11:30.
Is that in here?
Got it.
I think so.
Sorry, no, it's okay. I'm sorry, I didn't want you
No,
to.
I saw it. I just totally.
Just didn't want you to get hurt.
All right, sorry, Steve.
I'm ready. Just don't breathe. Are you all set?
Yeah.
Okay, it's 6:30. I'll call meeting of the Oregon School District Board of Education to order. Today is Monday, April 12th, 2021. We're at the Oregon School District Innovation Center, and we're also meeting via Google Handouts. Could you call the roll?
Miss Garrison,
I'm here, but my calendar's loading, so
you're physically here.
I'm physically here.
Mr. Maring,
I'm here.
Miss Flanagan,
Present.
Mr. Pinkeretz,
Present.
Miss Bijak,
Here.
Mr. Brun,
Here.
Mr. Zach.
Present. Board has a quorum. I have proof that the meeting has been appropriately noticed under Wisconsin Open Meetings Law, and that will be with Ms. Heights if anyone wishes to inspect that. Tonight, our agenda has a public hearing to hear any public comment regarding a proposal to submit a resolution for the waiver of hours from the DPI, and then acting on a resolution. And then staffing plan for 2021, which is a carryover from our last meeting. Capital maintenance projects, 2021, shared services agreement, and then teacher contracts and non-rep contracts. And then informational items per usual. And then at the conclusion of the meeting, we'll have a short closed session to discuss vacation leave options for administrators. We will not be returning to open session after that. So I would need a motion to approve the calendar as posted.
I'll move to approve the agenda.
I'll second.
Got a motion and a second. Any discussion? Seeing none, could you, or all in favor, signify by saying aye.
Aye.
Opposed? Motion carries. All right. Next thing is president's address. 2 weeks, you're going to meet and organize your board, okay? And I will not be here for that. I probably won't be watching either. I've been told to take a sabbatical. But it's a good time. It's been a hard year. A lot of changes that have gone on from what normally has happened. And I think it's an appropriate time, both with Mike going off and you guys starting anew, to kind of reflect a little bit. So I wanted to spend 10 minutes with you to reflect, you know, as you start your journey forward, starting next meeting, okay? So I went back about 6 or 7 years and did some reflection. And so if you look at the screen or on the boards, I did a slide deck for you. If I can get the power.
Is it on? It's the button on the side on. Other side.
Yeah, it's on.
All right, we'll go this way.
We'll go it this way. All right, we'll do it manual. You know, I think we should look at the district from a longer view, and there has been an amazing culture of long-term commitment to the district here, okay? It's just not me being here for a long term as a school board member, but you look, we've had 3 superintendents in 31 years. We've only had 6 board presidents over a period of 25 years, and that's really unusual, okay? And of those 6 presidents, 5 of them served on the board longer than 9 years. If you look at our board going forward next year, it's a really good mix of seniority and experience and diverse opinions ranging from 10 years. Troy, we're giving you credit for Belleville. Okay? But that's a really well-balanced board over a period of time with experience and new ideas coming in. Can you click? But it goes deeper than that. You look at our teaching staff. Over 30% of our staff have been here for 15 years plus. That's simply amazing. Okay? When you look at the central office team, those who we work with more closely on a day-to-day basis, look at the level of years that have been here in this district and the culture that that has brought and the long-term commitment that that's brought. That's amazing. And Andy, you and I have been together for a long time, and I really appreciate all the time we've spent together. I look forward to spending time with you as a friend and not as somebody who's been on the board. And, you know, maybe I'll start riding a bike and we can do bike rides. But I remember, I'm picking on Andy because we've been around for a long, long time. I can remember Linda Barrows, when we hired Andy, it was like in my first 6 months, saying, he's a little young, but I think he's got what it's take to make it here for the long haul. You know, and you have. And we're going to show you some numbers in a minute. And that's due to Andy, okay? That goes deeper too, and I didn't get numbers on this, but when you look at our building level administrators, how long they have been there and the commitment that they've had, our support staff, we know our support staff, they're our neighbors, and they've been longtime Oregon residents. We're in 2nd and 3rd generations. Our bus contractors are families that go back 4 generations. And that's all reflective in this district having a really long-term commitment to school and public education. That's significant. That goes beyond just personnel. This community puts money on the table too for us. You know, they support us economically. I want to walk through you the level of support that this community's had for this school district. In 2014, they passed at a 62% rate a $55 million referendum. We'll keep counting as we go through these numbers, okay? Click. That allowed us to do amazing things at Prairie View and Netherwood Knoll. Click. At Brooklyn, took on a whole new facelift and was a significant addition to that community. Click. The high school, this is simply fantastic addition, and we're sitting in one of those places that allow us to have such beautiful meeting space. I remember when I first joined the board, we were in the little boardroom, little kindergarten room off district services offices, and I literally had people sitting behind me from the community. 2 feet, it was that crowded, and now we get to sit in this. The gym. And then we also were able to do JC Park East, which is a phenomenal entranceway down Perry Parkway into our school site that allows other athletes to have premier athletic space. Can you click? In 2016, this community passed an educator compensation referendum. That passed at 65%. And we arranged out of our budget to put $1.5 million in there, thanks to Andy. But we also asked our community to tax themselves every year $1.5 million more than was required by statute to fund our educator compensation plan, and they approved it. Click. This is that plan. There's no other district in the state that has a plan like this. So we have work to do, and I'll show you some of the challenges on that, but teachers who entered their 11th year here can make $61,000 and then $65,000 with the masters. That's amazing. thanks to this community. And then November of 18, we asked them for $44.9 million, $45 million to help build Forest Edge, to buy property, and to move for the future. That passed at 64%. And that school is just phenomenal. And I can't wait for you guys to be able to have an open house for the community in a post-COVID world, so the district can see what an amazing facility is. It's the first net zero public school building in the state, and it borders up against a beautiful backdrop forest. We are also able then to purchase the school forest, which is just going to be amazing. We've got meetings coming up to begin the development of that, and we were able to buy a house that was for sale adjacent to that property that will serve as our environmental center. And Tim LeBrun was really instrumental in finding that and working through that whole foreclosure process. Thanks, Tim. It's going to be a gift to this community that's going to last for a long time. I got to walk through the woods. That's going to be one of my favorite pictures. I think I'm going to put that in the house somewhere. Wait till you go through those woods. I can't wait for a community to go through that woods because it's magical back there. It'll be a great educational facility for our students. And planning for the future. We were able to purchase the Donaldson property on the north end of town. We have work to do with that. We've got to work with our village and with the city of Fitchburg and with Dane County to move that forward. But we know we're going to have to build a junior high. We know down the road we need a new elementary school. We know this community and the regional area needs a new aquatic center and pool. We know we need new recreational space. Our ability to use referendum funds to purchase this property at a really low cost sets this district up 40 years into the future for any space needs we might have, and to enable our communities to have great recreational space. So you wonder, we spent like $100 million, right? So our taxes must be off the roof. Okay. I went and did some work on from the Wisconsin State Journal. Every December they post the real tax costs for communities, and they targeted at $250,000 worth of value. And they're the property tax bill. So one of the things you have to do is you look at what are constants. Some of the variables, we're going to have constants, which would be vocational tech, okay, cost, but you're going to have a variable for each community and what their tax rates are in the school district. But if you look at the city of Fitchburg, okay, where all the variables are the same except for the school taxes and the school levies, we're the lowest of the three school districts, Verona and Madison, okay? This includes all the referendum dollars that have been approved and the operational override. So this is post our tax increase, and we're still lowest. If you look at economic indicators, and that's the sheet that you have had, thank you, Andy, for working through this. It's a document that Andy first put together in 2019. I asked him to update that with the most current numbers. These are the numbers, and if you look on the screen, this will be good for you guys for resource, and I encourage you as you move forward over the years to look at the economic indicators like this. But look at that, the mill rate, the Dane County average, we're below that. The debt, we're below the Dane County average. Our fund balance, which is a good number, we're higher than the average. Our total educational costs and our total district costs, there's different ways to measure cost per student, but if you look at two of the primary ones, we're lower than average in this county. Post all of that referendum dollars, that's significant as to what we've done. Here's how we look when we do comparative, and again, the variable here is not only the school district, but the individual municipality, but this is informative. It means that even though we have put $100 million into our district that the way we've operated ourselves budgetarily has been economical and has put us well below average amongst our peer communities in this county. We moved from money. This is a district for a long time is engaged in district-wide strategic planning, and these are the papers that we have written over the years, the latest one being in 2016, okay, which serves as a fundamental. And here are some of the things, when you move forward, these are the themes that, go back, forward one. These are the themes, all can. You see that right from 1991. All of our students can. We know some of them won't, but we need to reach all of them. We have a district that's engaged in continuous improvement. That's been a theme for a long time. Okay? Changes the status quo from 1992. This is one of my favorite quotes from our board in 2007. Take a minute and read that. It still rings true today, given our last year. And lastly, the 5 values. It's amazing how fast this has become part of our nomenclature in this district and how it rings true and how every decision that's being made is made in the context of these 5 values, which were not derived by the board. They were derived from a community gathering over 2 days to distill what this community values. And the thing is, when you look through the culture that's been developed, either through personnel or support for finances, our values with respect to public education are consistent with that in these 5 values as we go forward. Let's talk about student achievement, because that's what we're here for after all, okay? Those are 2 papers that were written. I encourage you to go back and reread those because they're very informative. 3 of the bullet points that are most important for me and have been over my tenure is we do not use data to label or rank. We're not good or bad. Point in time standardized tests are only one measure of student achievement. And what we use data for is to continually improve, to continue to evaluate, and that is not only with district practices, but with individual student achievement. But if we were going to look at normative data and standardized tests, because that's one factor, if we're going to look at that, this is what we would see. Over 5 years, our average is a 98% graduation rate. Our annual report card, the latest one, I'm not a huge fan of this, okay? But it's a data point. And if you're going to look at data points, we're 4th out of 15th in the latest one. We're above, significantly above the county average, and we're exceeding expectations. If you look at our ACT scores, we significantly outpace the state average, and that's been true since 2015. This is my dream for the district. We had a dreaming session a long time ago as a board, and the question I asked is that we have students who have special needs, and we take great care to have individual education plans for them. Every student in our district is special, so why doesn't every student have an individual education plan? And shouldn't every student have a community and school mentor to meet regularly with that student and the parents and guardians to develop over time and a plan and to evaluate that plan and progress on it? And if we're looking for a measure of success at the end, these would be the questions I ask instead of looking at test scores and that sort of stuff, because those will all form the basis for answering these questions. But can a parent or guardian and a community member and the student answer this question, all these questions? Yes. Have you reached your potential? Are you traveling where you want to go when you leave here? Have we given you the education to get there? You know, you want to go there. Have we done enough stuff to allow you to get there? And the question that's a look forward with the student is when they come back, when you got there, were you prepared to succeed? You know, that's a survey. Those would be my end game questions in terms of graduation. We've got ongoing initiatives that are really significant here. The equity work's amazing in this district. Here are some of the things that we're doing. It's not an extensive list, but that's ongoing. Social and emotional learning, that's a really new concept, you know, from 22 years ago. We didn't talk about that 22 years ago. We were looking at what we were talking about, core educational principles in education, you know, math and reading and that stuff. And we've begun to recognize how important the whole child is, and the social and emotional learning, that's really a critical aspect of education. And we've over the last 4 or 5 years really been investing in that. Last year, $800,000 in our budget was directed to that. The staffing plan tonight that we're going to be looking at funds 2 more positions for that, and we're adopting our curriculum for that. It's a very different way of looking at school, the whole child, the holistic approach from what it was 22 years ago. But I think especially after this year, we recognize the importance of that. Here are your challenges. We've heard a lot about it. Can't wait to get back to normal. You know, my point would be this district has never gone backwards. We continuously improve forward. And so we need to learn from this and move forward. And that there is no normal. Change is the status quo here. We're going to have to answer the question, which delivery model works best for each student? Okay? Because we moved from a scenario 2 years ago where we were brick and mortar and working on some flipped classroom and other sorts of delivery alternative models. We've been talking about that for a long time. And we were forced this last year to look at other delivery models. And I think there's a lot of things to learn. That different students have succeeded in this model. Some have not, but the same was true in the brick and mortar. So your question would be, how do we blend these models, or to use what we've learned this year so that each student is in the delivery model that works best for them? And how do we create a new structure to incorporate that? And I think a big challenge will be, how do we heal the divisions that this has resulted in this last year? It's been hard dialogue in the community, you know, and there's reasons for it, you know, because there were different viewpoints on how the pandemic should have been approached. And there weren't right or wrong answers. There were different answers and different viewpoints. But when people have their children involved, and when children are involved, passions rise, and that's what happened. That's natural. That's happened for a lot of different issues over the years in this district, where we've had tough decisions involving students where passions have arisen, and that creates normal division in the community. And the challenge will be, how do we heal those as we move forward? Budget's going to be challenging this next year. Okay, so you'll have to wrestle with that. With the educator compensation plan, that's a terrific model, but we recognize that the purple level needs to be looked at hard. And how do we engage with our more senior teachers who are frozen in at a rate, and what's the best way to approach that to retain them? Okay, so that's a challenge. We also have to look at our post-retirement benefits. You know, we've talked about for a while moving from a pay-as-you-go, moving from a deferred funding structure to a pay-as-you-go, and how best to do that in the context of attracting and retaining our educators, okay? And then development of Worth Woods and the environmental center. And growth. We need to look at updating our projected growth rate. That's being done right now. We need to work with the village, Fitchburg, and the county on Donaldson, and plan on the next referendum and the building project as you go forward. Those are all challenges for the future. Staffing is going to be a challenge. There's a teacher shortage. There's a substitute shortage. We know we need to increase the diversity of our workforce. So that'll be something that's a challenge. But looking here today at the board and where we're at and the foundation that we have, there's no doubt that we're uniquely positioned to meet those challenges. So I wish you good luck. All right, that takes us to consent calendar. Is there any item that any board member wishes to have removed from the consent calendar? All right, seeing none, I need a motion to approve the consent calendar.
I'll move to approve the consent calendar.
Is there a second?
I'll second.
Okay, I've got a motion and a second. I'll note we have two retirements, long-standing teachers in the district. Margot Vanda Zambi, who's a fourth grade teacher at Brooklyn, is retiring after 17 years. And Bruce Nelson, who's retiring after 27 years. We really wish them the best of luck in retirement. We're going to miss them terribly. Both have been critical pillars in our district, and so we wish them the best. We also have some significant donations to acknowledge. We have an anonymous donation of $35,000 for the splash pad. Okay, and then Mary Clark is donating $2,600 for the splash pad. And Charles Hansen is donating $12,000 for a June E. Hansen Scholarship Funds. Again, meeting after meeting, I keep announcing the very generous donations we have. This is just emblematic of this, and it's emblematic of the support this community has for public education. So we've got a motion and a second. Could you do a roll call because we have a contract?
Mr. LeBrun,
Yes.
Mr. Pankratz,
Yes.
Ms. Garrison,
Yes.
Mr. Marion,
Yes.
Ms. Flanagan,
Yes.
Ms. Bijak,
Yes.
Mr. Zach.
Yes, motions on the consent calendar carry unanimously. Takes us to B, informational items. We have, I believe, a music video that the music department wanted. So can you introduce that for us?
Yes, the music departments in the Oregon School District and the students of our music program have put together a video that they really wanted the board to see. And they wanted to make sure that the current board that includes Mr. Zach was able to see it. So I don't know if Ms. Black is attending and if she would like to play it, or Ms. Black, would you like us to play it?
I am here. Thank you, Dr. Bergstrom, and I'm happy to play it, but your internet connection might be better than mine. So if I can just say, preface it with, we've just been so overwhelmed, as have our students, with the great support that administration and the school board members have shown to us always, but especially in this year. And we really do feel that that part of our apple, the well-rounded education, that we can do the work we do with our students in the academic area of music because of all of you. So the students say it best. They say it better than we can. So thank you.
Hello, I am Aiden Kukuitsa. I'm in 4th grade, and I go to Brooklyn Elementary School, and my instrument is a violin. My favorite part of being a music student is probably that I get to have fun with exploring the music and trying to be able to play it and failing and then trying again and getting it better, and yeah.
My name is William Schmidt, and I am a 7th grader who goes to Oregon Middle School, and I play the baritone saxophone. Music gets me off of video games. I tend to be on video games a lot, and now that I have to play these songs, I'm upstairs practicing 10-15 minutes and maybe twice a day. Thank you.
Hi, my name is Harmony Krieger. I'm a 6th grade student at FES, and I play the flute and band. Music education in our schools is important because it teaches us how to learn different music and different genres that may be important throughout life. Thank you, Oregon School District, for valuing music education. Thank you.
Hi, my name is Addie Swan, and I'm a freshman at Oregon High School. I play baritone and bassoon in band and cello in orchestra. I can't imagine my life without music because I have wanted to be a professional musician since I was around 8 years old. Having music in the schools has furthered my excitement to be a professional musician and given me more skills. My favorite part about music in the schools is the teachers. They have made me so excited for learning music and pushed me so I can get better. Thank you, music teachers.
Hi, I'm Madeline. I'm in 7th grade. I go to OMS and I play the clarinet. Music education in our schools is just really important because you can learn and grow in so many different ways, and you can build bonds with the other people around you and make new friends with the people who play the same instrument. So thank you, OSD, for valuing music education because it's something that I've always loved doing, and I've been able to do it for the past few years. I'm very grateful for the opportunity.
Hi, my name is Celia Brink. I'm in 6th grade and I go to RCI and I play the violin and the clarinet.
Hi, my name is Josie Brink and I'm in 4th grade at NKE and I play the violin.
One of the best things about studying music is when you work on the little details and you put it all together and you make one really cool piece.
And music has taught me patience, especially during COVID.
I love when we have this small group and you work on the individual stuff with like 3 other people. And you put it all together and you make a really cool piece in large groups.
Bye.
Hello, my name is Harry Hawkins. I'm a senior here at OHS, and I play the trombone, sing in the concert chorale, and I'm currently studying music theory. And to me, music education has been one of, if not the only thing I look forward to when I go to school. Really, I can't imagine what these last 4 years would have been like without music. So it's really played a huge part in my high school career, I guess. Like studying music with people that also love music or at least enjoy it is probably one of the best feelings you can experience. So.
Hi there, my name is Olivia Howard, and I play clarinet in the 7th grade Oregon Middle School Band. Music education in schools is so important for so many reasons. For example, music, as well as learning to play an instrument, is pretty much like learning a whole new language. And as we all know, learning languages sharpens kids' brains, deepens their thinking, and helps them make better connections overall. Also, students can make new friends in band that can last a lifetime. I have been taught to persevere and never give up through learning a piece of music, or even trying to just get the right note. I have also learned time management and focus, so I know how long to practice and when to be ready in time for a concert or audition. I can't imagine my life without music, because the world would be really boring and plain without it. There wouldn't be as much life. Music is everywhere. We just have to take the time to notice it and be immersed in its melodies, beats, and grooves.
Hi, my name is Adeline. I am in 4th grader. I do violin and I also do choir. Music has taught me it can help you and it can also be very calming. The best thing about studying music is that I have always wanted to play an instrument. But my favorite part about being a music student is seeing all of my teachers. They're really nice and fun, and I love doing choir and violin. And yeah, it's really fun.
Hi, I'm Sophia Sky. I am in 8th grade and play trombone at OMS. To me, music is something that I can connect with others through, something that I can work towards and get a beautiful outcome from, a place where I can be creative, a place where I can be happy, and maybe even get a small break that still challenges me and makes me feel good about my ability to learn and grow in certain things.
Hi, my name is Sam Schmidt. I'm a freshman at Oregon High School and I play the trumpet. To me, the best thing about studying music is that it gives me an outlet. Whether I'm happy, sad, angry, or I'm bored, I can get my trumpet and I can play my feelings out. My favorite part of being a music student is that I get to make new friends that I wouldn't normally make. Without music, I wouldn't have met some of my close friends that I have today. Thank you.
Hi, my name is Kate. I'm in 4th grade. I go to Prairie View Elementary School and I play the violin. My favorite part of being a music student is getting to see and hear my friends play songs and seeing my teacher. Bye.
Hello, my name is Cassidy Harvancic. I'm in 12th grade. I go to Oregon High School and I play the cello, flute, clarinet, and alto saxophone, among a list of other things. Truly, I don't know where I would be without music education, as even though I have many other interests and commitments, music has become such an integral part of my life. But overall, my favorite part of being a music student is the inclusive and non-competitive nature of the classroom. No one wins or loses, as we're all just coming together to play music in a safe space. Also, nothing beats the feeling of nailing a performance after studying a piece for so long, as everyone has worked so hard to show others their hard work and dedication. Indeed, I cannot emphasize enough how important music is to me and how much the OSD music department has contributed to my overall growth as a musician and as a human being. From playing the recorder for my parents in first grade to winning a top scholarship for a flute concerto in 12th grade, I've come so far and achieved so many amazing things. My life has truly been changed by music, and I will forever be grateful to the OSD Music Department for providing me with the tools I needed to start a journey that will take me all sorts of places in the many years to come. Thank you.
Terrific. Thank you, Kay, for putting that together and having it presented to us tonight. The district has had a long history of supporting the arts and music, and we look forward to that continuing. It adds so much. We were lucky to be able to have some of our music groups perform for us over the last couple of months. So thank you so much.
Thank you, Mr. Zach. Group effort.
Okay. Okay, moving on with comments. Do we have any people registered?
Two. Peyton Schroeder is
Okay.
the first one.
Okay, Peyton, would you come up? And you go to come up to the computer up here and read. I think you have 2 pages you're going to walk through with us. Yep. Okay, go ahead.
Hello, Oregon School Board, faculty, and community members. Sorry. Hello, Oregon School Board, faculty, and community members. My name is Peyton Schroeder, and I'm a freshman at OHS. I decided after the last school board meeting to speak in front of you all tonight, as many of the people who have come here to do the same have not been doing a good job representing everyone's views on the situation. I would like to start by explaining that I do not want what I'm going to say to be perceived as antagonistic or an attack on any individual, because that's truly not my intent. However, I am frustrated with the ongoing situation, and I have been since September. I also want to let you know that I cannot and am not claiming to represent the opinions and views of everyone, just to show you a wider range of student views than what you had previously been presented with. Due to the time limit imposed on public comments, I have had to cut down some of the stories you will hear today. However, I did my best to not alter the message of those students, and I'm happy to share those students' full and unedited stories with the board. The misrepresentation of student views regarding online learning done by the student liaison, among others, appears deliberate. Through their consistently antagonistic tone and delusive content, it became clear their primary focus was their own agendas. I personally interact with student liaisons, both in class and through extracurriculars, as well as with a large variety of other online and in-person learners. From what I have witnessed, only a few students share the views presented by the liaison and other community members. However, a insignificant portion of students find it to be an overall positive experience. Not knowing the true and complete views of students makes the board and community ignorant, and this has become toxic to the student body as the larger Oregon community is taking action based on information which is causing direct harm to students. To do my part in correcting these inaccuracies and exclusions, I'm going to present you today with a few other views on this issue, starting with mine. As the administration has made it clear to everyone that the experiences of minorities are just as important as those of the majority, because every student matters. Throughout online learning, I've been able to receive more feedback and one-on-one help from teachers than I did in the past. This has allowed me to achieve a 4.0 GPA while being able to capitalize on opportunities that wouldn't have been available in a normal school year. I wanted to show you all a range of viewpoints on this subject, and because I am only one person who has my own experience to share, I have some stories from students who are engaged in the online format to help widen your understanding of students' opinions. Stories like this one, which an upperclassman shared with me. This year for me has been a drastic change. For most people, it has. Personally, unlike other people, this year has actually been a positive experience and change through the means of academic understanding, grades, organization, and courage. This year started with both online learning and a block schedule. These both helped me individually. Online learning helped me for a few reasons. First of all, it made me feel safe. I knew that I was safe within my house and didn't have to worry about catching COVID-19. I found online learning also helped me with courage, as I now reach out for teachers to help with assignments, which I didn't do before. All in all, the new systems for me have been drastically different from previous school years, but they have helped me understand assignments more and get higher grades, so I'm thankful for them for existing for me and other students. This was not the only story I have heard either. Here's one from another freshman. This year was a different school year than what I've had before. Being an online student the whole year has given me a school experience different from any other year when I was in person. I enjoyed these changes from being online, being more flexible about when I did my schoolwork, getting to pick what I worked on and not having to be in a classroom the whole day. Being able to choose when I did schoolwork let me start doing my schoolwork as soon as I wanted to. One way I took advantage of this was in my AP Computer Science class. I had already learned a computer language before, so when we did the first part of the curriculum, learning the basics, I was able to complete it and move on to later lessons at my own pace. This helped me not only to be doing work I found challenging and interesting, but also to be more productive with my time by learning things outside the scope of the curriculum, with time I otherwise would have spent waiting for the rest of the class. Another one from a freshman student. The greatest advantage of being online is staying safe. Although in school they have put up COVID-19 restrictions, it is not as safe as staying online. Furthermore, teachers have sustained open communication with the students online and helped me when I have been confused through any extra meeting times we have set up. Being fully online has driven me to get better at time management. As you can see, none of these stories are the same, and none of them are the ones that are getting shared in this forum. I hope that these stories help you all to see the disparity between the actual views of the students you represent and look out for and what you have been told by those in positions to utilize this platform. I also want to quickly share a few reasons people are staying online. Reasons like this student who said, I chose to continue with online learning for 2 reasons. First and foremost, because of COVID-19. I didn't and don't feel safe going back to school as so many people are catching COVID-19. Especially now as things are reopening. Secondly is the fact that my grades are outstanding currently and throughout the school year. In previous years, I had poor or abysmal grades. This year, I have all A's in my classes. This is a huge improvement and has boosted my confidence in my capabilities and boosted my GPA. Another students. It is because of the environment and freedom and how I use my time that I have chosen to be an online student for the whole year. Or this student's reasoning. I wanted to stay online because my stepmom is at a higher risk of getting very sick, even more so than a healthy teen like myself. I understand that going back to school will not lower the numbers of COVID cases. I truly want to end the coronavirus. Finally, my own reasoning for choosing to stay online is that I need to protect my own health as a high-risk individual. The experiences and reasons behind the choice to stay online is something that I hope I was able to bring some light to. With a wider knowledge of student views and opinions, I hope that you can all make decisions that will benefit the whole student body, not just the ones that fit the image people want projected. I have many more stories I could share, but I only have a few minutes to speak to you, so I will leave you with this thought. Why isn't it that you haven't heard much from the Oregon online families? The first thing that comes to mind for me is that they could be happy to have this opportunity, even if it's not ideal and is different from what we consider normal.
Thanks for coming and sharing your thoughts with us, Steve.
And Eric Zintel. Eric.
Eric?
Well, good evening, everyone, and thank you for allowing me to speak today. My name is Eric Zintal. I'm a senior here at Oregon High School, and I've been with the district since I was in kindergarten at Netherwood Knoll. Though it was a difficult choice, I made the decision to continue learning online last December. My main reason was and still is that online learning simply works for me. In person also worked, but why risk contracting COVID and its possible long-term side effects when the flipped model has just worked well in my life this past year? As a National Merit Scholarship finalist, my educational experience online hasn't changed in any way. It's remained instructive and challenging, yet successful. I credit my success online, obviously, to my teachers and more abstractly, the flipped model as a whole. The flipped model gives online students, like myself, separate classes from our in-person classmates, allowing us direct access to our teacher, who we can ask questions to and work out problems with, all while building a unique relationship with the teacher. Plus, with many of my classmates back at school, these online sessions in the afternoon have typically been smaller, which allow more time for discussion and collaboration between students. If instead Oregon had followed the concurrent model, I fear students like myself would be neglected due to the overwhelming nature of the classroom. Teachers, they might not consistently check in with the online kids. They might favor the in-person kids over the kids like me who have chosen to stay online. And there'd be little face-to-face for kids like me. So thank you to OSD administration and for the board's support for the flipped model and dedicating specific time for online learners, despite any outside pressure OSD might have faced during that time. Oregon Online is a great educational experience and environment where I've been able to learn, build relationships, and succeed as a student in my final year of high school. And in no way do I feel like Oregon Online has failed me. I'm thankful to have the online option for the remainder of the year. I'm thankful for that option being the flipped model, and I'm thankful for all of my teachers for their hard work in the classroom. Thank you very much.
Is there anybody else here for public comment? Okay. That takes us to OEA report. Laura.
Yes. I'm actually going to share the microphone with Nate, so I will start and then he will hop in. The Oregon Education Association Board of Directors, as the duly elected representatives of the teachers of the Oregon School District, is issuing this statement to express our thanks to the school board and administration for its thoughtful leadership, and in particular, with a note of thanks to Mr. Zock for his many years of service. The last year has brought challenges to the entire community, and we have all had to work together to find the best solutions for our young people. With so many perspectives and elements to consider, our administration and school board had to carefully weigh all of the issues to make decisions that would best serve the community as a whole. We, as teachers, appreciate having been involved in conversations throughout the process, and especially appreciate the thoughtful planning that went into decision-making. We know that not everyone agreed with every decision along the way, but we want to assure the community of two things. First, that our administration and board only want the very best for our learners, and that every decision they made was with that lens. While those not directly involved in that process may believe that there were better, more obvious options, we would hope that people would understand that they may not understand all of the intricacies with which decisions were made. While a particular decision may not have been best for one student or one family at one particular moment, the decision-making process goes much deeper. We believe strongly that our administration, with board support, made decisions to serve the entire district and community, and appreciate the thoughtful way in which they did so. For example, while some in the community expressed concern about the current hybrid schedule, it is critical to remember that our model supports all families' needs and choices, including those who have chosen to remain online during the ongoing pandemic. We made a commitment to our online students to provide a quality, equitable educational experience, and it is our responsibility to do that in the best way feasible for all of our learners. We believe that the current hybrid model accounts for the varying needs and provides quality instruction for those in person and for those doing virtual instruction. Second, while some of our students have struggled this year, we must continue to be mindful of the fact that we are in a pandemic, a once-in-a-century event. And considering that, our kids have done remarkably well. In fact, some have even thrived and excelled given the new parameters of learning. We would also implore the community not to compare student achievement this year with other years, and instead of declaring them behind, recognize that growth this year looks different and therefore needs to be measured in different ways. We are going to come out better and stronger for this experience, and we will use the lessons we learned here as we look to the future. We need to take the best pieces of this year and use them to improve our strategies for delivery, engagement, discipline, and assessment. For example, the flipped model that seems to have drawn such controversy is, in fact, a very sound pedagogical practice that is used successfully in many places. While it's not perfect for every situation, it makes sense in that it more efficiently uses the time shared in person between student and teacher. We don't expect that we will use it exclusively going forward, but as with many lessons from this past year, we expect that we will use it when appropriate in the future in ways that make sense for particular grade levels or courses. The educators and our administrators in our district must consider what works for a wide variety of learners, including factors that may not be immediately apparent unless immersed in the system on a daily basis.
This entire year has taken an incredible amount of coordination, communication, and collaboration. That has happened due to the diligent work of some key players, including the school board, and in particular its president, Steve Zock. The OEA would like to thank Mr. Zock for his 22 years of service on the Oregon School Board. The OEA has not always agreed with Mr. Zock, but it is inevitable when operating such a complex system as a school district with its many moving pieces and diverse perspectives. What we have always respected about Mr. Zock is his commitment to making the Oregon School District a wonderful place for students. While the methods may differ, our goals and motivation have always been in concert, to do what is best for the community in which we serve. In a desire to collaborate, it has long been a tradition of the OEA and the OSD to have monthly meetings between the administration, the school board, and OEA leadership. As the president of the school board, Mr. Zock has been a regular attendee, often showing up in a suit ready for work or in his sweats after a morning run. He has been a strong advocate for open dialogue and constructive problem solving that have long been the hallmarks of our relationship. Not every local union has such communication and collaboration with their school board, and we are looking forward to continuing the tradition with future iterations of the school board. Mr. Zock's leadership has shown the community the positive influence a school board can have over the lives of students, staff, and a community. The OEA is convinced that this demonstration of positive impact has influenced a record number of candidates to run for the school board this spring. Oregon is fortunate to have so many individuals who feel called to do the hard work and put in the hours to help guide the students of the community into the future. And we are grateful for the many years of service and inspiration that Mr. Zock has provided over the past 22 years. The OEA remains grateful to the incredible partnership we have with our district administration and school board, and look forward to the continued work, incorporating so many lessons from a challenging year, and moving forward to continue to make Oregon the school district, the strong school district it is.
Thank you, Nathan and Laura. Those words really mean a lot to me. You're right, we have not always agreed on things over the years with the OEA, but all of our conversations were premised with the fact that, or based upon the fact that we were doing or articulating positions because both of us cared for students, and that was always fundamental to those conversations. I really greatly appreciated the last 2 years of working with you, Nate, and Laura, and Jason as we tackled hard issues and had tough dialogues. as we went through. So thank you very much. Okay, that takes us to student report. Chloe and Andrew, I made a mistake today of bringing my dog down at about 8:30 and there were cars everywhere. So you guys had a big day today. So I'll let you guys go.
Okay. I do have a bit of an exciting update, I guess, regarding the class of 2021 and prom. We recently met with a group of 12 seniors, each is kind of in their own leadership roles, and just started the brainstorming process of how we could create a safe event that would still allow all of the health guidelines to be in place, something that the class of 2021 would be excited to attend. And that could be in different formats, maybe more of like a banquet style, maybe more of a senior night or a senior activity rather than an actual formal prom. So yeah, really excited about that brainstorming process and to see where it goes. But really grateful that we'll be able to kind of hopefully create an event that will allow to experience the rite of passage.
Thank you. Andrew?
Yes, and spring sports are starting to ramp up. I know personally baseball had pitchers and catchers reporting today with tryouts next week. I believe track and fields tryout, or first week and next week as well. Our volleyball team just finished their season this past week, and both cross-country teams, I think, are wrapping up the end. I know there was a meet with just Milton on Saturday that Oregon did very well in with, I think we took first, second, and third place. I'm sure somebody can check me on that. Other than that, as Chloe said, prom's starting to ramp up. We were in school today, everybody, so that was very exciting just to see some faces that we hadn't seen but since last March, which was a little weird. Parking was a lot harder than I thought it would be. One question I do have for the school is, now that the COVID-19 vaccine is available to everybody over the age of 16, is there a way that students can report that they have gotten the vaccine as to mitigate potential, not necessarily close contact, but ways that we can kind of go around that? Because I know in years past when you submit vaccination forms, it's usually done towards the end of, or towards the beginning of the school year. We don't really look at this towards the middle. So is there a way we can create like a special form or a special database? Obviously, the students, some of whom being under the age of 18, have to have their parents sign away their health, their rights, basically. I don't want to say rights, but HIPAA and everything that they're covered under. So I'm just wondering how the school board and how I'm sure that falls on some of the school nurses, how they're working with that. So that's something you guys, I think, should look at in the near future, and should be a great help in getting us towards a closer normal.
So we have talked about that, Andrew. That's a very good point, because knowing the vaccination status is a way that we can determine the best step forward for contact tracing and quarantine.
And I think that's one thing that administration can work with student council and have a discussion with them on a go-forward basis, yeah. Okay. Anything more, Andrew or Chloe? Okay. Good luck to you too in the future and with baseball this year. I'll be down and watching. All right. That takes us out of informational items. And that goes to agenda item C, which is a public hearing. We need to, we've got a potential resolution to request from DPI, Department of Public Instruction, a waiver due to COVID-19 of the minimum hours set forth by statute. To do that, we first need a public hearing. So I will convene that public hearing at this point in time. And as that hearing, we'll hear first from Gina Jonan, who will explain what the request is and what the resolution is about. Then I'll ask if there's anybody from the public who wishes to comment on that request. If there are any questions from the board regarding that, at that point in time, we'll close the public hearing, and then we'll move on to consider that as a board. Okay, so public hearing's open. Gina, would you give some background in terms of the request?
Certainly. So you do have a summary on a board circle in the packet, as well as the sample, keep going like this, as well as the sample resolution. So just to let you know, state law does require that Wisconsin public school districts have a certain number of instructional hours by grade level. And those are set out in statute 121.021F. As everyone knows, due to the COVID pandemic, in August, Public Health Madison and Dane County issued an emergency order that stated that school districts in Dane County could only have in-person instruction for grades K through 2. And that all other grades would be virtual. And due to other provisions in that order, that also meant that we had to have smaller cohorts of students. So by this emergency order, we could not have all of our students in person for full hours of instruction. So as we went through the pandemic this school year, Public Health Madison and Dane County continued to issue orders that impacted our ability to have in-person instruction, but were in the interest of student safety. So due to this fact, the DPI has told us that school districts in this position were welcome to have a public hearing and to ask for a waiver of hours of instruction for this particular school year, given this very unique circumstance. So as an administrative team, we are asking the board and the public to approve us seeking a waiver from DPI to waive the mandated hours of instruction for grades K through 12.
Is there anyone from the public here tonight that wishes to comment on the request for a waiver of DPI minimum hours? Is there anyone here from the public who would wish to speak? One last time, is there anyone here from the public who wishes to speak at the public hearing? All right, no one is here to speak. Does any board member have any questions of Gina regarding the request? Kevin?
Yes, Gina, in the board pack, the number of hours are listed here in the 121.02, 1,050 hours for grades 1 to 6, 1,137 for 7 to 12. How short are we approximately these hours?
So DPI has just given us guidance on how to calculate hours for virtual instruction. So I can give you an update at that on a future meeting. I don't know because we've been waiting to see how we're going to be able to calculate that.
Okay, because of the actual live, like the flips, especially, using synchronous versus asynchronous and all that stuff.
Exactly.
The only question I have is.
Thank you, Kevin. Any other questions? Tim?
Again, Gina, this is a look back. This is a historical waiver. Typically, it's something we look at ahead of a year, but we didn't know how long this was going to last.
Correct.
And so we don't really have a choice here because we spent the year with less hours than we typically are required. I would imagine that all of the other school districts, public school districts in Dane County are in the same boat.
Yes, absolutely. And I believe unless Dr. Bergstrom could update, but when we had our HR director meeting, everyone present at our meeting was either had sought a waiver or had planned to seek a waiver for that exact reason.
Thank you.
Thanks, Tim. Any other questions from any board member? All right, did that raise any questions from any member of the public who wishes to comment? Seeing none, I will close the public hearing at this point in time, and we'll move to agenda item C2, which would be the consideration of an action on a resolution on request of DPI waiver due to the COVID-19 public health emergency to waive the minimum number of hours of instruction set forth in Wisconsin statute 121.021F for the 2020-2021 school year.
I will move approval.
Is there a second?
Second.
Is there any discussion? Seeing no discussion, could you call the roll on the motion?
Ms. Flanagan?
Yes.
Ms. Garrison?
Yes.
Mr. Maring? Mr. Pankratz?
Yes.
Ms. Bijak?
Yes.
Mr. LeBrun?
Yes.
Mr. Zach?
Yes, motion carries and we're authorized to sign the appropriate resolution. Thank you. Action items. Before we start that, I think Dr. Bergstrom has a slide that will put the action items in context as we move forward with them.
Thank
Bergstrom, the floor is
you.
yours.
Thank you. I just wanted to make sure that this evening, before we began to talk about important items such as the staffing plan, that we took a moment to put the staffing plan into the context of a visioning and strategic planning process, because it is one portion of a much larger process that we are beginning to lay out for you. Because when we talk about staffing, the staffing plan that's being put forward tonight is a part of this larger plan to be responsive to student needs as we move forward. So we want to be able to use federal funding coming from ESSER to support what we know our students need and to amplify those practices as we move forward. So what you'll hear about tonight with the staffing plan will be one component, or a part of what you hear in the staffing plan will be one component connected to how we plan to use federal funds to be responsive to our student needs. And you see here from the timeline that we have placed out in front of you, May 10th is when we will talk to you about our different scenarios, depending on how much federal funding we receive and how we plan to use that one-time funding to support what we know is important to our students as we move forward. So the staffing report is this evening. The next board meeting, we'll talk about the Dane County Youth Survey results, because I know you've been very anxious to hear about that. And we know that what we hear that night will also inform how we plan to spend ESSER funds, right? So all of this is very tied together and the timing of it is really important. In addition to that, on April 26th, we'll also talk about what we have learned in our research regarding how to approach learning as we move forward. And we always hear this sentence tonight about students not being behind, right? And how we want to approach it, not from a deficit approach, but from a strengths-based approach as we move forward. And then we know that on April 29th, it was going to be the date that we were listening to school leadership teams talk about what they plan moving forward, but we moved that to have a slightly longer night. We put all of the schools on May 6th, and instead have the first part of our board workshop on April 29th, since that, thankfully, time was already on your calendars. So we'll be able to talk a little bit about board governance and its application to OSD policies, and do that together as a team. And then, as I said, May 6th will be our student leadership team presentations. I'm really excited for all of you to see those. We are talking at the leadership team levels at every single school about what practices, based off the last year, we would want to end, which ones we want to restart because we had to give up due to the pandemic, and what did we learn from the pandemic regarding practices we want to amplify moving forward, and how we will do that as a unit, as a team, into the fall and beyond. Then we have the board meeting on the 10th, talking about the ESSER funding and getting an update on summer school, so we'll have a lot of good information for you at that time. Then another board workshop on the 20th to talk about establishing our priorities. A visioning summit related to 41102, Portrait of a Graduate, on June 17th. And then the administrative team will take all of the information and input that we have gathered from the community and the board and the leadership teams and go away to administrative workshop and come back with some drafts to show the board for approval this summer. So wanted you to see how tonight fit into the bigger picture. We'll talk more about the ESSER funding next month, and a bit of what Gina will discuss tonight is connected to that.
Thank you, Dr. Bergstrom. That takes us to the staffing plan. And Gina, the floor is yours.
If you look at the board circle on page 3 in table 1, the budget summary, we estimate that we will be receiving $1.5 to $2 million from the federal government under the elementary and secondary emergency relief fund. ESER 2 and 3. And so if you look at our staffing request, what we are recommending tonight is that we would add a STEAM/art teacher at middle school, and that would be with funds allocated from the district budget. But then looking at the ESER funding, as Dr. Bergstrom mentioned, we will have a more comprehensive plan for those funds on May 10th. But we felt comfortable tonight saying that we could fund the 2 social work positions with the ESER money. Because if you look at the intent of the ESER funds, it is to address student needs that occurred because of COVID. And we felt that what better place to invest that money, but in addressing our students' mental health concerns that we have felt have increased over the pandemic, and the Dane County Youth Survey will provide data to see if that was a correct assumption. With the hope that we could continue to fund those positions as we grow in the future, or from grants that we could also potentially be able to secure in the future. And one reason we felt comfortable with those 2 positions also being from one-time money is that it is not uncommon in the nonprofit world that those positions are shorter term positions based on grant funding, as opposed to teaching positions where that's not as common. So our recommendation tonight is that we ask your approval for the positions in Table 1, but also want to draw your attention to Table 2 that we touched on last time about math intervention and bilingual education, because as we review our data moving forward, those also could be components of a future plan.
Thank you, Gina. Any questions from the board? Krista?
Just a couple questions. One is, I see from Andy's budget report that the estimated unallocated is $142,000, correct? And so then what you're asking for us is to approve a STEAM, which is the only money that would come from that, which is 75, which would leave a balance of 67. Is that correct? So I guess I'm wondering if you're asking us to approve that position, the social workers, which would be ESSER funding, and then I see the bilingual educators of $30,000 to $100,000 range. It looks to me like we have $67,000 unspent, and I know we're looking for staff raises and things, but is that something that we do want to look at, the bilingual? We've had that on the list for quite a few years, and is that something that some of those funds, we could dip our toe into that?
We do. We didn't bring that forward tonight because we want to do some more data gathering for our students to see what would best meet their needs, whether that would be a bilingual para-educator or a bilingual teacher. And so the testing window for students closed, I believe, last week. And so it takes some time for us to get access to that data. So we wanted more time to look at the student data to see where our highest need is and at what point we could best meet that need. Because if we're looking at a bilingual teacher, that would be more expensive than a paraprofessional. But both are higher cost positions just because of the language skill and the market competitiveness of those employees. So it might not be enough for us to fund a teacher with just the budget allocation that we're needing.
So then what do we think is the next point in time where we may have a better handle on state budget funding, and then looking at that, where do we think we're putting that out into the future? What kind of date would the board look at something like that?
Well, I think May 10th is when we'll probably be including the bilingual education needs as well as English learner needs.
Okay.
And we'll have a better understanding from the state by then as well?
Yes, and actually Andy and I discussed, and if we don't, then we'll present you with Plan A, Plan B, Plan C, and we'll be an if in between each one of those plans because there will be unknowns.
And then I guess my second question is, as you know, I wholeheartedly believe in the social worker positions. I guess what I'm asking is that you're basing that rationale on the Dane County Youth Survey, which we have not seen yet, and the ESSER funding, which we have not had a presentation on that yet. So as a board member, I'm a little, I wouldn't say uneasy, but it's a little, I don't know. I'm wondering if we take step one and approve the STEAM and then leave the ESSER for later. But the other thing that I'm aware of, having been on the board as well, is that there's kind of this window in terms of hiring. And so is there, is that why you're advising that we would approve that tonight so that you can start moving forward with that, knowing ESSER funds are a larger pot of money and we're only looking at $150,000 of that?
Well, I think another reason that's really important, or another thing that's important to remember, is that we have other sources of data that show us that our students have increased mental health needs. And consequently, that's why we feel very comfortable putting forward the social worker positions now, even before the Dane County Youth Survey is finalized.
Okay, I just wanted to make sure, I just wanted to put that out there. Okay, that's it for me. Thank you.
Thank you. Anybody else with any questions of Leslie or Gina?
So once we get a look at the Dane County Youth Survey and the additional data that we're looking at, is there a chance that we might need more from a social worker perspective than what we're approving here? And that we would use ESSER funds for additional help in this area?
Well, that's always a possibility, but I really think it's important that we start with just the 2 positions that we can also tie to measurable objectives, so we know whether or not the addition of those 2 positions really help us meet those objectives, as opposed to really multiplying the number of positions before we know how much impact we can have with these 2.
Mm-hmm.
Any other, Tim, you good? Okay, anybody else? All right, so the request from administration is to approve the positions on table 1 for funding, and then to authorize the hiring of those as well. Is there a motion to that effect?
I would make a motion to recommend approval of the positions listed in table 1 and to authorize the hiring process for those positions.
Is there a second to that motion?
I'll second.
Any discussion? Seeing none, could you call the roll?
Ms. Bijak?
Yes.
Mr. LeBrun?
Yes.
Ms. Garrison?
Yes.
Mr. Maring?
Yes.
Ms. Flanagan?
Yes.
Mr. Pankratz?
Yes.
Mr. Zach?
Yes, motion carries 7-0. First step on staffing for 2021, 22. All right, and then Dr. Bergstrom's laid out for you the process by which you'll assess other items through the budget process. Takes us to D2, capital maintenance projects, and I see Zane in the back. I think everyone knows Zane.
No, I forgot about you, son. You just have to talk loud.
Uh-oh.
Yeah, I know we're gonna.
Sorry.
All right, so we are here to talk about capital maintenance for 21 and 22. So what I want to do is touch on some of the projects that we were able to get done last year at some of the schools. What you see right now is some new cabinetry and sinks and stuff in one of our kindergarten rooms at Brooklyn that we were able to get done. Go ahead. This is some new gym doors, or doors that got put on the big gym at Netherwood. Well, you probably see that kind of at the back entrance to the district office, and it's been really nice for the gym class to kind of now have their own space and not have people cutting through or everybody kind of waving every time they go by. So we were able to get done all the classrooms at Brooklyn, Prairie View, and Netherwood Knoll with new LED lights and dimmers. I realized that unfortunately having a light that kind of look the same, but I promise you the new one is new. It's probably been one of the most dynamite projects we've done. I haven't heard a single complaint out of anybody who's gotten the LED lights and the dimmer so far. So it's really been a positive one so far. And then out at RCI, we're able to do some new concrete and kind of regrading in the back. That sidewalk's kind of leading from the noble doors out of the back of the cafeteria out to the playground. And then the Gaga ball pit that apparently is a absolute hit over there. We kind of regraded that, raised it up, kind of rotated and fixed it so it stays a lot drier and more beautiful for the kids. So. And before you say, wow, that guy, the new guy really didn't do too much in his first year. There's a lot of projects that we kind of had to put on hold, or did put on hold last year with COVID and so many of the uncertainties. But we do have a handful of projects that we're going to be working on kind of here in the late spring into early summer that will fall under kind of the 2021 project. So we have some older windows that face the courtyard at Brooklyn that we're going to get replaced. We are also going to more or less finish the LED lighting project there with the remaining rooms, small group rooms, gyms, or the gym and then the corridors. At Prairie View, we're going to finish painting the original metal siding on the outside of the building. Then again, finish the LED lighting project in the rooms, the gyms, and the corridors. Then at Netherwood, we have the back playground, sub-base, and green tile, and then the jelly bean mulch. Obviously, the new playground equipment will be provided by Netherwood, but we'll get that finished up right as we finish school. We have some ACD ceilings we're going to be replacing in the 3rd and the 4th grade classrooms. Then again, LED lights in the remaining rooms, gyms, office, cafeteria, and corridor at Netherwood. We've got some new gym lockers for the boys' locker room at the middle school, along with some patching of parking lots and the driveway asphalt. And then at JC Park, we have the remaining walking path section get fixed up here as the asphalt plants get opened up as the weather gets nicer. So those are kind of remaining projects from last year that we're going to be doing this year. So that brings us to our new list of projects. So starting down at Brooklyn, we have one more kindergarten classroom to finish up with the new cabinetry. The two that we got in the addition had the new cabinetry. We did the one last year, we'll do the final one this year. And then we've got a large section of roof that we're going to replace there. So on the map there, it's kind of the L shape to the right and above the courtyard that will get replaced this summer. At Netherwood, we have some new flooring in the entry of the main vestibule and then the office area, as well as some concrete fixes at a couple of the heavily used entrances, one across from the pool and the one that kind of takes everyone out to the playground on the back side of the building. We also have a roofing project at Netherwood as well. Netherwood's in pretty good shape. It's hard to kind of see, but there's kind of an old grayish looking section. That's actually the section above the library. So that's the section we'll be replacing there. And then we're going to be doing some flooring, lighting, ceiling, and hopefully repaint the walls down in the beloved orange workroom. So I've been told I have to somehow keep it orange because everyone calls it the orange workroom. So we'll figure out what. Prairie View, we're going to continue working on flooring replacement in the corridors. So this next phase will finish up the BCT flooring in the original section of the building, replacing with a maintenance-free, non-waxable floor like they have elsewhere. At Rowan Corners, we are going to be replacing the carpeting in the offices in the main office. The kind of reception area and corridor got done a couple of years ago. And this is going in and taking care of I believe there's 7 offices up in the office to get that replaced. At the middle school, we are going to be adding about 100 additional student lockers for the increased student population that is coming in. We've got a science room that used to be a shop class over there. So we're going to do a little bit of a pilot project. We're going to remove the VCT floor and work on doing a polished concrete finish on that for the science room. And then we have about 12 classrooms that we're planning on putting new carpet in. So that classroom carpet is original to that building. The corridor carpet and some of the other areas have been redone with the addition and the referendum work, but the classrooms for the most part are original. At the high school, we are going to be replacing the carpet in the music wing rooms. So band and kind of the practice rooms and offices, orchestra offices, practice rooms, and then the choir room as well. And then we're going to work on improving the ventilation and ductwork and everything for the foundry that is in the metal shops. So we've been working with our safety consultant, as well as the tech group to figure out the best solution to get that approved, so. And then out at JC Park, we are going to be adding some netting over the soccer bleachers that will protect people from any foul balls from the baseball game. So we're going to be adding some poles and some wires and some netting to keep anything that goes back over the top to hitting anybody that is sitting in the bleachers. So, and then we just got a little money that we got in the contingency in case any problems or unknown or unforeseen come up during that process.
Any questions for Zane on the projects that are contemplated out of our capital maintenance budget? Troy?
I just have one thing. On the LEDs that we've replaced and probably will continue to replace, are we able to get the same energy efficiency out of those lights that we get like at Forest Edge with the individually controlled? I don't know the technology, Andy gave us the tour, but are we able to get that same level of efficiency out of our older buildings that we're seeing at Forest Edge?
Yes, to a point. The fixtures use minimal electricity, just like the ones at Forest Edge. The only disadvantage we probably have at the other schools is we just don't have that robust software of a lighting control system. All these rooms pretty much are individually controlled. They do have aux sensors, so if people leave and walk out, eventually they turn the lights off, and it saves electricity that way. The nice part about with dimmer is an LED that if you turn the dimmer to 50%, that fixture is using 50% of the electricity. In old tube fixtures, when you put the dimmer down, it just makes the dimmer really hot and it still uses the same amount of electricity. So I think we're going to get very close to the efficiency and the energy uses that we have at Forest Edge. It's just probably not going to be right in line just because of the software.
Okay, thanks.
Yes.
Tim?
Zane, did we get any kind of incentives from colleges, from Alliant?
We don't get anything from Alliant. We do get focus on energy rebates, which is, I think it's a nationally funded, but it's a state focused on energy piece that gives rebates for replacing older fixtures with new LED fixtures. Now, unfortunately, as the cost of LED fixtures continue to go down, those incentives somewhat go down with it. So even this second round of lighting projects that we're doing compared to the first, our rebates are about half of what they were, just a year ago. So, but we do get something back from them.
Any curiosity question is, maybe go back to the last slide. The netting there, we had an incident from the baseball diamond to the soccer field, or just preventative?
Preventative, I believe. Mr. Cock, yeah, preventative. Probably some near misses.
Okay. Just want to check, it's a pretty big expense. Safety first, though. You want to be that person in the soccer stadium, get the ball to the.
We don't want to be talking about that at the board meeting. I mean, the after effect of that.
Any other questions? Okay, I think you're looking for a motion to approve the capital maintenance budget as presented.
I'll make that motion.
Is there a second?
I'll second.
Any further discussion? Seeing none, call the roll.
Mr. Pankratz?
Yes.
Ms. Feja?
Yes.
Ms. Garrison?
Yes.
Mr. Maring?
Yes.
Ms. Flanagan?
Yes.
Mr. LeBrun?
Yes.
Mr. Zock?
Yes. Motion carries 7-0. Thank you, Zane, for presenting that. Let me know when you're doing the JC Park walk so I can alert Charlie. Okay.
So we will have signs up warning everybody when it's going to be shut down and when it will be closed. So.
Okay, thank you. Action item D3, Dane County New Teacher Project Shared Services Agreement. This is an annual contract that we signed. Anybody?
It is. We are members of the organization that receives services or gives services to, you can see the school districts that are mostly in Dane County, but there are a lot of school districts who access the services remotely. It's to provide support for what started as support for new teachers. but now it also supplies support for instructional coaches, for administrators, for our new educator mentor. We definitely have a wonderful partnership with Dane County New Teacher Project and all the professional development and support they supply us and our neighboring districts.
Okay. And Gina, have you reviewed the contract and does it meet your approval?
Yes, it does.
Okay. So the request from administration is to approve entering into the agreement for the 21-22 school year.
I'll move approval.
Is there a second?
I'll second.
Okay, any questions or discussion? Tim?
Yeah, what is the spend typically on this contract on an annual basis?
It is $10,400. It's dependent on the number of students in your district, and that is the amount we pay based on our population.
Okay, thank you.
Okay, any other questions or any other discussion? Seeing none, since the contract, call the roll.
Ms. Flanagan.
Yes.
Ms. Bijak.
Yes.
Ms. Garrison.
Yes.
Mr. Maring.
Yes.
Mr. Pankratz.
Yes.
Mr. LeBrun.
Yes.
Mr. Zach.
Yes, motion carries. We're going to D4, and this was an item that, Troy, you're going to step out on?
Yep, I'm just going to recuse myself because I have a conflict of interest.
Okay, so since Troy's, per recommendation, is going to step away from the table and will not participate in any discussion or the vote on this, abstain. Dr. Bergstrom or Gina? Gina?
So we would like to ask the board to approve us issuing contracts to our teachers represented by the OEA. Under state law, we have to send teachers their contracts no later than May 15th. And by state law, they have to return them by June 15th. And so I would say in the old days, I used to come with a stack of about 400 contracts for the board president and clerk to sign. And Mr. Zach and Ms. Flanagan did individually sign every single contract, which was very appreciated. Last year, we had to move to a different model with COVID, and so we started to issue them electronically, and that was much appreciated by our staff. So it's a much easier process. So I came a little bit early to this meeting to see if that would be appropriate for us to do that electronically, to save not only our teacher time, but also the time for our president and start getting him signing all those contracts. So what we'd be asking the board tonight to approve us issuing contracts to our teachers for next school year. We certainly would not issue contracts to any teacher who has given us notice of retirement, who has given us notice of resignation, or would be potentially pending non-renewal. And so I'm happy to report that we have no anticipated layoffs for next year because we're able to fill positions through attrition. So with that, I would be asking the board for a motion to approve us issuing teacher contracts, and then I will talk to the board president and board clerk after if it's okay to do that electronically, or if you'd like us to bring us back next time we can sign.
All right, any questions of Gina? Seeing none, I'd entertain a motion to approve the issuance of teacher contracts for the 21-22 school year as presented by Gina.
I'll make that motion.
Is there a second?
I'll second.
Tim with the second. Any further discussion? Would you call the roll?
Ms. Garrison.
Yes.
Mr. LeBrun.
Yes.
Mr. Maring.
Yes.
Ms. Flanagan.
Yes.
Ms. Bijak.
Yes.
Mr. Zach.
Yes, motion carries 6-0, with a note that abstention from Mr. Pankratz. Troy, you can come back. Item D5, issuance of licensed non-rep contracts for 21-22. Gina.
So this is a similar process. This is a group of individuals that are licensed by BPI, but are not represented by the OEA. And the reason that we do them separately is in the past, if there have been different wage increases for different groups in the spring, then we run those contracts differently. This year, we haven't started on salaries for 21-22 school year, but I thought just to keep the same process, that we would be issuing contracts to those individuals, and so those would be our staff such as our nurses, our occupational therapists, our physical therapists, and our school psychologists. So the timelines are the same for those individuals because they are also licensed by BPI. So we would be seeking the board approval to issue contracts to that group of staff as well.
Any questions? I'd entertain a motion to approve issuance of licensed non-rep contracts for 21-22.
I'll move approval.
Is there a second?
I'll second.
Anna with a second. Any further discussion? Seeing none, please call the roll.
Ms. Flanagan.
Yes.
Ms. Bijak.
Yes.
Ms. Garrison.
Yes.
Mr. Maring.
Yes.
Mr. Pankratz.
Yes.
Mr. LeBrun.
Yes.
Mr. Zach.
Yes, motion carries 7-0. And then Gina, Chris and I will connect with you after the meeting
Thank you.
to talk about implementing that. Takes us to agenda item E, discussion items, committee reports, anything from policy,
No report from policy.
visioning?
No report, we haven't met, but I'll note the schedule that Dr. Bergstrom laid out earlier. It's going to require some vision steering meetings in the next month or so. So I think after we do our reorg in a couple weeks, we will look to schedule that meeting.
Thank you. Okay. Information items. F1, school board election update, Krista as clerk.
Yeah, so my sole election function as clerk is to run the canvassing meeting, which is a publicly noticed open meeting. So I want to thank our two canvassers that helped us out with that, and Katie, who always helps us out with that, who does an amazing job on elections. So the results, as you know, we had two races. Area 1, Mary Lakuta officially had 3,525 votes. Josh King had 1,770 votes. So Mary has been elected to a 3-year term. And then Area 3, Troy Pankratz had 3,426 votes, and Aaron Heisler had 1,714 votes. So Troy is reelected to a 3-year term.
Congratulations,
report.
Troy. Thank you. Welcome back. Mary Lakuta's here in person. You want to say anything, Mary, or?
I'd just like to say I'm very much looking forward to working with the board. Sorry to see you folks.
Thank you. All right. Information items, F2, 3, and 4 are typical reports.
Typically, yes, but I do intend to be somewhat more brief with the opening of school update. Although there really is a lot happening, it was an exciting day. And you can see from the agenda here that we'll talk a little bit about the impact of Order 15. We'll talk about spring sports, spring events and celebrations, summer school, visioning and planning, the fall, and action steps. So we have some pictures from today, and you can see that there is quite a bit happening, from playgrounds to classrooms to PE rooms to outdoor music. I believe the picture that has students playing music outdoors actually has a tent on that same space right now. So the tent must have just been put up, and we have tents at every one of the schools for music instruction, so that we can take it outside and make sure that we are promoting what you saw today, that great love of music learning, and doing it safely. So with more students in person, we know that we need to be vigilant about our health and safety measures, because we want to keep moving forward. This is exactly the momentum that we want to have happening. But there was an increase in the 2-week average from last time. And that's unfortunate. I think it went up from 47 to 59. And cases among kids under 16 have increased over the last month. And as of Friday, when we did our data snapshot, we had 13 student cases and 75 students in quarantine. And then we had notification on 3 more student cases today. So the student cases are increasing, and that's why it's really important that we stay vigilant with the safety practices that we know are working. I also want to note that the 75 students in quarantine, if, for example, we had 13 cases this week, because even the cases today were students who were in school last week, right, and they're not in school today. But if students are in school today, for every case, all the students sitting around them will need to go into quarantine because they are less than 6 feet apart. And 6 feet is still the standard that we need to use for contact tracing and quarantining. So I do expect that the number of students in quarantine will rise. However, I also know that when we're using the right safety measures, we're keeping our schools safe. And so people need to take the Panther Pledge every day. Do not come to school if you are not feeling well. And that Panther Pledge, Erica did some surveying regarding people's awareness of it, and people know it's out there. And whether they do it informally or formally every day, it is stopping them. Having people stop and think about whether or not they should be in school is a really important piece. Of course, still getting tested if you have symptoms. Wearing the mask. The mask is very important. And then practicing distancing and hand washing when that's appropriate too. So what does Order 15 tell us? Well, that was complicated because it's just starting to be the type of orders that you have to read over and over again to make sure you're understanding every component of it. But for face coverings, still required indoors in Dane County. So a lot of people get a little confused about the governor's order, but in actuality, it's Dane County's mask order. And the school district also has the ability to have one in place, even if Dane County didn't, but they do. They also strongly recommend face coverings. That's actually the phrase, strongly recommend face coverings outdoors when you cannot maintain the 6 feet of distance. Gatherings, you can see that there is a limit to indoor gatherings. There is not a limit to outdoor gatherings. However, you still have to maintain the 6 feet of distance outdoors. So the limitation on outdoor gatherings is very space related. So when people would say something like, I see this such and such district has more people in their stadium, you have to think about the square footage of their bleachers and if they can fit more people because they have bigger bleachers when you divide it by 6 feet. Mike will talk about that a little bit in his presentation in a moment. And then for sports, 6 feet of distancing required unless you're playing. And then following the requirements for gatherings and for masking. So I think we're going to turn it over to Mike now and talk a little bit about our
I already mentioned our spring sports are starting next week with track, golf, baseball, and softball. Girls soccer will start the week after that, and then it starts that week of May 3rd. So I've also included the number of student athletes that have signed up so far. We've done another call, so we anticipate that these numbers are pretty good, but we might add a couple more depending on sign-ups. So the recommendations from Public Health Madison-Dane County, these are some of the things that we'll be doing going forward, using visual cues for seating, so people know where to sit, how to sit 6 feet apart. Again, as Dr. Bergstrom talked about, there is an unlimited number of people that can attend an event, but then we still have the second piece of they still have to be 6 feet apart and they're not in the same household. That's where people get confused. So we're going to do some visual cues in the stadiums to show people kind of where to sit. And if you look at the picture, it's not the best picture, but if you look at the picture, we've kind of marked some places out. So if you think about our stadium, we would have a pod of 4 people sitting in one section. And then if you look at the picture, the next pod of people cannot sit until another row behind them. So we want to make sure that we have 6 feet between each family, forward, backward, side by side. So that's why there's some confusion on how many people we can have from the stadium. We will do some additional signage, and we will do public address reminders during events. I think what's really important is that we have to have buy-in from everybody to make this really successful. So we're going to try to give people the information that they need, but we also need them to kind of follow our directions and follow our leads to make that work. Next slide, please. So the safety protocols that we're going to put in place, we're going to continue to educate athletes on the proper use of masks. That's been an issue, so we're working on that through more education and more education. The daily health screeners has been going much better. And then the social distancing on campus and off campus, because again, what we talked about this whole time, people need to make healthy and safe decisions both on campus and off to make this successful. Because as Dr. Bergstrom alluded to, we've had more and more kids test positive or going to quarantine.
The gathering limits, I just spoke about, still needs to have 6 feet of distance between households. We're gonna do some pilots this week. We're gonna pilot, hosting limits of 4, a pot of 4 family members for home athletes and 2 for visiting athletes. And again, that depends on the size of the stadium and where we can fit people. At the soccer stadium, we have a little more flexibility because people can stand on the fence or they can kind of go on the grass. In the football stadium, it's not as liberal with our seating there, so that's kind of more of a static number. But we're gonna try to, I want people to hear this, that we're gonna try to put as many people in the stadiums as we can, while still maintaining the order in the way that it's written. So we're not trying to limit people, we're trying to include as many people as we can, because we know that that's important to our families. And then as we get to the spring season, because the spring season is a little bit different, because most of our sports are outside, we're gonna look at 4 for our home, for our students, and 4 for our visiting, but it's also gonna be sport dependent. Because if you looked at the numbers before, track teams have 150 people. And if we have 150 people and Stoughton has 150 people, that's not a lot of people. So it's not always, I think what people get hung up on is a number. They hear we're at that X district is doing 4, we can't always reciprocate to that because of the size of our stadiums, the number of our teams. Like the baseball team only has 15 kids compared to the track team that has 100 kids. So people just need to be flexible, and I think we're doing a good job of communicating that. And it's put a really big strain on our department because we're doing things so much differently. And I do want to recognize Laura Creeks because she's done a lot of that work. Because in the past, any game, you just showed up, you paid your money, you went in. Now we're doing a lot of RSVP. Before, we're doing a lot more communication, and she's really carried the water on that, and she's done an excellent job. So I think people need to make sure that we're doing the best we can with what we have. We're cramming the season in, and we've put in a bunch of new protocols, and we're going to get some things right and some things wrong, but we're not dropping a lot of balls. I think we've got a lot of balls in the air, and I think we're doing a really good job, and that's a testament to our kids, our coaches, and our parents. I for sure wanted to recognize Laura because she's done an outstanding job. And then I think there's one more. Can we go back one?
Sure.
And then I think this is the big thing, and Leslie alluded to this as well. Public health does not have a masking requirement for outdoor sports, but they strongly recommend it. So when we met with them on Thursday as athletic directors, they said we still strongly recommend masks, both inside and outside. They're required inside, but outside, especially when you can't have the 6 feet of distance. If you remember in the news in the last week or 2, there was a massive outbreak at a healthcare daycare center. What you did hear was there was also a massive outbreak that was just as big at a volleyball tournament. So they're still asking that we still do all the things that we've been doing, washing our hands, socially distance, wearing masks. And that will be for both our players and our spectators on campus. And the Dane County Athletic Directors have agreed that that's probably the way we're going to go through the rest of the year, because we just know that keeps people. Next slide. We just have a couple of congratulations that we wanted to recognize. We had some girls on our swimming team qualify for the state tournament. Allie Bush and Zoe Rule and Noelle Marsh, Victoria Helvig, Brooke White, Isabella Noco, and James Simbrioni. And then recent in the last week, Charlie Roberts, who's a senior here, was recently named the WBCA All-Star, so she will play in the WBCA All-Star game in July, and that benefits the MAC Fund, which is the Midwest Athletes Against Childhood Cancer. So that's a really big honor, and going to state is a really big honor, so we wanted to make sure that you knew about that, and we could recognize those things. So with that, I'll take questions.
Any questions with Mike? Yep, Chris.
Mike, I know, there's a lot of interest in sports, a lot of our students playing sports. You have community members that want to attend sporting events, you have parents and relatives. I guess I'm wondering, like Erica does with the COVID, on our main page of our website, if we could have a COVID section in the athletics part of our website that talks and gives some people some maybe Q&A or reasonings. So you and Laura aren't dependent on all the communication out to people. That we also have a reference point that as it changes or where people, that they can just, you can just drive them to the website, maybe just a suggestion to help you guys in terms of you're communicating out, but it's not covering everybody because there's such an interest and there's friends and family. And then you can also have a link to OCA Media or something. I'm just, trying to help you all with not being the only source
that's
of
a great
information.
suggestion. Thank you. I think one of the things we've learned through this process is phone-to-phone communication is the best. So we're really following up with people when they are upset or have questions or need more information. But that's a great suggestion, Kristen. We'll put that in motion.
Thanks. Any other questions for Mike, Tim?
Mike, with regards to the players wearing masks, I know that it's strongly recommended. Have we consulted with medical experts on whether that's healthy to be wearing masks?
So actually, I sent some information to Leslie this morning from the Mayo Clinic. The Mayo Clinic is saying that masks, when you cannot do the 6 feet, are still appropriate, and there's still something that you can play a sport in. So there's definitely some research and science behind that.
Andrew, you had a question.
I did. So with most of the spring sports venues, I know that there are portions of the stadium that are outside of our gated location. How do you plan to implement the requirements that we're going based off of? Especially, I'm thinking the outfield on the baseball and softball field, and I believe that far wall on the soccer field, there are certain places that you can see through.
Yeah, so we can only control the things that we can control, which is a great life lesson, I think. It's something I definitely want to do.
Drop the knowledge, Mike.
But what we have to do with that is make sure that we do what we can with the people inside the stadium and inside the venues. We also remind people that before the order happened, the last order, that people outside the gate still counted as part of attending that gathering. So we would just want to make sure that over our PA announcements that even people outside of the fences are socially distancing from non-helpful relationships. That's a really good question.
Can you talk a little bit about, sorry, you just talked about the masks and if you're not able to be 6 feet apart. So if you are in sports that single tennis, for example, then our masks, are we still saying yes to masks?
We're still saying yes to
I
masks.
want to be really clear.
Yeah, we're very clear on masks for anything on campus, any school-sponsored activity.
Got it.
And the WIA still requires masks for most sports. So like even in singles tennis, when our girls play in the section on Wednesday, they're required to wear masks.
Got it. Thank you.
My question is along the same lines as Andrew. It's like within the soccer field, when the calculations are done for the number of attendees, is it only the seating area, or is it because you can be within the, pay your admission, get in, still, stand outside the?
Yeah. So basically what we did, Leslie and I did this together, so we were in alignment and we were congruent in our thinking. There are multiple calculators that you can find online to say if you have, I think the soccer stadium is 1,500 square feet of seating, and so we put numbers in there, and then we expanded that outside of those numbers to make sure that it was a little bit generous, and it gave people some, so we're not doing just the seating, because if we did that, it was a very small number. So we kind of maxed out as much as we can where we feel comfortable. The other thing we're trying to do is also make sure that it's manageable. And it's fair for our athletes and their team.
Okay, thank you, Mike.
Thank you.
All right, now I'll go to some of the things that Chloe had mentioned earlier. The first is the last day of school, which will be Friday, June 4th. But we are also turning Wednesday, June 2nd into a synchronous day for online learners or an in-person day for our in-person learners. Because that last week of school, collaboration on what's coming up next is not as critical for our teachers. Consequently, let's use that day to get our students in school for more in-person learning. So the last week of school, that first week of June, will be, actually, I think it's Memorial Day, and then 4 days of straight in-person learning. And we sent that information home to our parents last week. And prom, as Chloe mentioned, we had a meeting on April 9th, and it was great. The students, and Andrew was there too. Andrew and Chloe were both there, along with many other students. And they told us what was most important to them, what they really felt was important about the event. So then we can prep some options and take it back to them, and these are the options based on what you told us was really important, and the safety parameters that we need to abide by, and then which of these options do you think sounds like the most fun? You know, because we want to make this something that's really memorable for them, really memorable and safe. And the students were super reasonable, really realistic, and wonderful to work with. And we'll be able to provide you the date and the details by the next board meeting, and that'll be really exciting. And then graduation, as you know, is Sunday, June 13th, and we are having an in-person celebration. And right now we're planning for an outdoor celebration so that we can allow students to bring guests to their graduation, because as a parent, it's very difficult to imagine your child walking across that stage and not seeing it happen. But we are also working on our Plan B option. If on June 13th it's a storm and the weather's terrible, how are we going to do this indoors? So once again, we really want our students to be able to give us information on that, because this is their day. And we want them to have input on how to celebrate it if we can't do it all together outside. And we have some creative thinking around how we could do this, because as you know, the stands have a limitation. But you know, maybe the families are on the field and the kids are in the stand. I mean, we have some creative ideas on how we could do this so that families can celebrate this important milestone with their students. And then summer semester, things are going quite well. So registration is starting this week. This is so interesting, everybody. We have 131 courses. And that is more than we had in 2019 or 2020. So we have a record number of courses offered, which I am so impressed with our teachers, because remember, we were worried several months ago, would they even want to do summer school, because everything had been so challenging throughout this school year. And not only are people wanting to do summer school, but we have a record number of courses offered. So I really hope our families find something that they think is really beneficial for their student. And we'll do a report to you on who signs up and how many sections we have after all the registrations are in. We'll have that for you in May. And then here is once again, look at the visioning and strategic planning that has been, we've had many discussions on this throughout time, but just to give you some big pieces as we move forward. We know the school leadership team reports are happening in May. Then we'll have our visioning summit on portrait of an OSD graduate in June. We also, by the end of May, will have the Roffers growth study updated. So his organization is working on that, and they'll have that soon. We'll also be working on first steps for athletic and recreational facility study, so that we can pair that with what we know about population growth. And of course, we have meetings upcoming related to the school forest and how we're going to continue to move forward in making that an exceptional learning environment for our kids too. And then the board and administration, strategic planning and prioritization, we have between 41102 Summit and school leadership team reports and all of the other information. I think that the vision committee will be very, very busy. So there's a lot of great stuff happening. For fall of 21, so it's really important to note that of course we are planning for full days, 5 days a week. There really is no return to normal because we've learned so much, but there definitely is a return to a certain number of instructional hours, right? We'll probably have to have safety practices in place, but we are completely planning on full days, 5 days a week, starting in the fall. However, we will be leveraging what we've learned about our online capabilities and our online options. So students who have excelled in that format, or students who still have concerns or their families have concerns related to health, we want to be able to find options that meet their needs. As Eric spoke about earlier, some students really excel in this format. We want to continue to provide some options for them when we can. And it'll be much easier to do that at the upper grades. And we have some exciting options to share with you. And that'll be a part of our board meetings in May also. And we will be surveying families so that we know who might be interested in online options. For the younger students, it's really whether or not we can is very dependent on the number of people who want to do it and whether or not it is equal to a teacher allocation and how we might make all that work. So what are our action steps? Well, April 15th, we have summer school registration. April 26th, we'll announce plans for prom. May 10th, we'll be able to give the final details for the June 13th commencement. Right now, we know it's outdoors, and we're planning on one ceremony outdoors, but we want to give you a really good backup plan, just in case. And so we'll be able to present that to you on May 10th. And then mid-May, we'll be surveying our families for our end-of-the-year feedback and thinking about the fall. And then, of course, June 17th will be our Portrait of a Graduate Summit. Medical Working Group, we have our next meeting on Monday. They've been invaluable to us, the members of the group. And so we hope to continue with them for a couple of more meetings, to seek their feedback and their input on decisions we've made moving forward. And now our equity update. As you know, you've seen this slide several times, all of the many things that are a part of our efforts to create equitable learning environments that benefit all students. The anti-hate speech lessons, as you know, are focused on creating a safe, secure, supportive environment for all, based on the Learning for Justice social standards, age-appropriate lessons created by teachers. Here's a couple of really cute examples from the ones that we did a couple of months ago, the identity lessons. So first you see our little ones drawing pictures of their family. And you'll notice that, you know, the kids are talking about, they're writing about their families, and not all the families look the same. And that's okay, because it's care and love that makes a family. And then in the next one, these are some samples from grades 3 and 4. And it's I am writing, and they write about things that are important to them. So I am from my mom and dad. I am from Madison, Wisconsin. You know, it's kids talking about what makes them them. And it's 3rd and 4th graders. So it's things about their families and things about activities that they like to do and where they live. I know that one of my favorite memories from my own children are the I am from poems that they wrote right around middle school. Because when they're around that age and they start writing about who they are and what's important to them, they become little windows into your kids' souls. You get to see how they perceive their childhood. And they're super treasured. I have them in a special fireproof spot. So the next thing we're doing are our diversity lessons. They've been created. They're once again based on the Learning for Justice educational standards. Families will receive notification prior to the lessons. We'll get information about what the lessons are about and resources to have discussions at home. Because we know a lot of our families want to talk about some of these things with their kids. So here are examples of the K2 diversity lesson with the theme is we're all human beings. So whether it's ability or race or culture or family structure or language, we are all human beings, and all of these things are what makes up diversity. So then you go into the grades 3 through 6, and it's about it's okay to be different. And I filmed a short video for that grade level, just talking about how we do this, because if we talk about these things, we're creating a safe environment, and an environment where everybody feels safe is an environment where everybody's ready to learn. So that's really what's at the crux of it. And the 3 through 6 lessons have a video from USA Today of young kids talking about it's okay to be different. And then superintendent's report. So I don't know if you'd like me to stop for some questions now?
Questions now? Don't see any.
Okay. Then this is exciting. We have some good stuff here. I don't know how many of you were able to see the Make Music Oregon Part 2. I know that a lot of you saw Part 1 and Part 2 just came out last week too. That was so much fun to see. And then Part 3 is on April 14th. And Kay Black has an example. Her whole family performed together. They had the living room full of family members all performing one song. So being able to see how much talent is in our community and everybody coming together to do something so positive, just a joy. So I hope you have an opportunity to watch it or even have it as beautiful background music while you're doing something else. And then congratulations to our speller. Brady here from RCI is our 2021 Badger State Spelling Bee champion. So congratulations to him, and doesn't he look proud? He sure does. I just love it. And we once again made the AP honor roll. We're one of 10 districts in Wisconsin, one of 250 across the United States and Canada, related to expanding opportunity and improving performance for advanced placement students. This is not the first time we've been named to the AP honor roll, but I think that it's something that we can be very proud of. And I know that our students work very hard to earn AP credit, and we have some outstanding teachers who are supporting them along the way. Now, this is another one, everybody, that is so cool. We have quite the math team. I don't know how many of you know how successful our math team is, and that's why I wanted to make sure you knew tonight. They were the top team score in the state of Wisconsin for the AA division, or AA class. And they were moved up to the AA class, which is for the largest schools in the state. And they won it, okay? And if you take a look at some of these mathematicians, they are names that have been excelling, students that have been excelling in math and finding ways to make math fun or discovering what is fun about math for a very long time. Will Cram, Brendan Dieter, Josh Dieter, Tyler Fisher, Aaron Hakes, Phoebe Jeske, Zeke Jeske, and Eric Santel, who spoke to you tonight. You'll also notice 2 sets of siblings. So they had the highest total team score of 216 in Class A, followed by Madison Memorial at 190. So that is a big win. We had several students who were named first team All-State. That would be Zeke Jeske, Aaron Hakes, Josh Dieter, Phoebe Jeske, and Will Cram. Tyler Fisher was second team All-State, and Zeke Jeske had the highest individual score in the AA division.
Oh, nice.
So,
Who mentors those teams?
Who is it? Dave Ebert, yeah, he sent us the notice, yeah.
Very good. Thank you.
So, pretty darn cool, right? Yeah. Okay. Now, I have a blank screen here because we're going to shift gears for a minute. And we are shifting gears because now we're moving into yet another part of our celebration this evening. And that is celebrating 22 years of service to a community. So I'm going to talk for a little bit, and then I'm going to pass it over to Krista Flanagan, who will talk for a little bit. But this is definitely a celebration of service. So we have a few pictures. They're pretty fun. So hold on just one second. This quote is from Hamilton, right? And I'm starting tonight with this quote because for those of you who know Steve Zack well, and you know be is a great appreciation for music. And if you're fortunate enough to have a long conversation with him, you will inevitably talk about books, music, and athletics. Those are highly likely to be conversational themes. And throughout his 22 years of service as an Oregon School District board member, he's worked with talented teams of board members who devoted themselves to ensuring that the school district is a place where all students can pursue their passions, right? Music, athletics, academics. They can pursue their passions in learning environments that are shaped by our 5 values, highly personalized, and prepare each young person for whatever their future pursuits are. So the Oregon School District has always been dogged in their pursuit of excellence for young people in this community. And that started, well, or an example of that is as a young person in the community, right? So Steve's service to the school district is rooted in his long-lasting ties to the community itself. As an Oregon graduate, he's personally witnessed the growth of the Oregon School District over time and has played a significant role in how we have evolved in service of our students and in service of our community.
Now you know why I'm bald.
So apparently this infield flag quote is one of your favorite quotes, and you're gonna have to tell us why, because I'm stumped.
I'll tell you.
Okay, would you like to? Please do.
Well, it's the one I have on my work website as a lawyer, because as Andrew knows, a runner is in a catch-22 if there's less than 2 outs and you've got runners on first and second, whether to run to the next base because you don't want to get tagged out, or do you stay and tag up because it might get caught? So it's the ultimate rule of fairness. And it's based on equity and fairness. And it's a long rule that baseball has. And actually my wife, who's here tonight, thank you. She had to do a baseball quiz, and she had to name the elements of the infield fly rule and the basis for it back then. So she got it right. But it's for somebody who loves sports and baseball, sports, baseball, and the law, it's the perfect rule of equity and fairness.
Nice. So Steve's many interests and talents connect him to the community. As a student athlete, he knows what athletics means to so many of our students. And truly his love of baseball led him to one of his first acts of service for the Oregon community. When Steve and his wife Patty first moved back to the Oregon area, one of the first acts of service was in his role in youth baseball. He was one of the founding members of Oregon Youth Baseball, served as the board president, a coach of the tweeners, is that what we call them? Teeners.
It's the freshmen going to be sophomores.
And served as an umpire. So he was heavily invested in the Oregon Youth Baseball family. And another early act of service to the community was serving as the mock trial coach. And it's interesting to me that in both scenarios, Steve serves as a coach to young people. And while his profession is a lawyer, I have to say he has the heart of an educator. And it's clearly a significant part of who he is as a person.
Is that a curveball you're throwing there?
I didn't throw curveballs. I could never figure that out. It was number one all the time.
Okay.
It was only when I started to slow down, I had to figure out how to change speeds and distance.
So, an athlete.
Somebody was complicit in this.
So, he's a lover, also a lover of the arts, and he's a musician and a Straw Hat Players performer. And what's interesting about this particular picture is this is from The Music Man, and it is a barbershop quartet that's actually composed of squabbling board members who come together for a harmonious barbershop quartet. And it's, I hope I get this right, because Stan Hill, Jason Rush, Steve Schumacher, and Steve Zuck as the barbershop quartet. And then service to his community extends beyond the school district. Thankfully, Steve, a true Renaissance man, also serves his community by entertaining them. He served as the board president of the Oregon Straw Hat Players and is a producer for many productions. And it's important to note that his three daughters, the three daughters that Steve and Patty raised in the Oregon School District, are also well-rounded individuals who are athletes and musicians and scholars. And Steve wants for all children what he wanted for his own family, a school district that nurtures the unique gifts and talents of every individual. Let's see what's done. Okay.
Oh my.
I know, right?
Oh
This is-
my. Wow.
This is the year 2000, one of the earliest board pictures because you were elected in April of 99, right?
I was appointed to that. year,
Oh,
yeah.
appointed, that's right.
Yeah.
He served with many remarkable individuals over the past 22 years, and each board has been dedicated to listening to the community, thinking about the future, and setting a vision that is at the 30,000-foot level and 5 to 10 years out. So here is the 2000 board. And then here,
Oh my.
I know, right?
I
You
get the
see
copy
that
of this,
two-
don't I?
Of course, 2001, 2002, 2003, and 2005. I
You're
believe
claiming
this one, this
everything.
board down here is the one that hired me, 'cause this was the 2003, and that's when I
Yeah.
started.
Yeah. Wow.
Scott even has hair, Steve.
I know. No beard.
Okay, and now we have 2006 over here, 2011, 2017, and 2019. So remarkable individuals who give up themselves
Great
in
boards.
service of their community. Great boards
Great
that
boards,
accomplish great
yeah.
things. And yes, you will definitely get a copy, so we So, for the past throughout his tenure as a board member, a central commitment of his service has been to listen to the community, to partner with the staff, and to connect with the students. So for the last several years, Steve has given a lot of great presentations to our new educators at the start of their service. So they're all here together for about 3 days, and Steve comes in to talk for one of those days. And one of the most memorable components of that presentation is a slide with the album cover for Pink Floyd's Dark Side of the Moon. And every year he asks them, how many of you know what this is? And every year I think he's expecting that they're not going to know, but somebody always knows, And the reason that he tells the story is because he's talking about when that album came out in 73.
Yes.
Okay. When it came out in 73, he had to adjust his speakers, gigantic speakers, just so to get the right music, to get all the sounds to be exactly as it should, and how he actually wore through the album, right? Had to buy more than one. Had to buy more than one album. And now all he has to do is push a button on his phone, and the music comes out perfectly.
There you go.
Yeah. And it's a story to illustrate how the world is changing, right? And how critical it is to ensure that the school district is changing too, in order to best prepare our students for the world ahead. And as new educators, as part of this orientation, something John Tanner and I have done for a few years now has been really fun too. And that is we put a quote from the student assessment paper that was written. We put a quote up on the board or up on the screen, and we don't say who wrote it. And we ask, okay, where do you think this quote comes from? And depending on, the year and who's the most up-to-date researcher, we hear things like, well, that's John Hattie. And we always get such a kick out of being able to say, no, this came from our school board who wrote a paper on assessment for student achievement. And that is something that has consistently blown away our new educators. That we have a school board that puts out position papers on topics like assessment for student achievement. And these papers are so full of well-founded research that when the teachers are looking at them, they're attributing the quotes to people who are writing a lot of books and making a lot of money. So the boards offer truly exceptional papers on education and educational needs as they evolve, and the papers are always a team effort. Amazing people working on this, but Steve has been a constant. So this was, I believe, a visioning conference. This one over here, I think, was a new educator presentation. This one, you see some focus groups. Steve talking about what's going on in the district at a focus group. Over there, you also see a community listening session for, I don't know if that was our school boundaries or our referendum. I'm not sure because the map would have been relevant to either one of them. But the point is there are lots of engagements, right, with the people who make the school district what it is. Bus drivers, you know, there's the bus driver appreciation breakfast. That's always a wonderful thing. And that's something that, once again, Steve has been able to be a part of because he knows how important every stakeholder group is to the success of our kids. And then, of course, it's important to note the vision for all of the school boards Steve has either led or been a member of, not only focused on curriculum delivery and assessment, or the vision for those things, but also on the facilities that are in service of the learning, as well as in service of developing student understanding of environmental stewardship. So that has been a significant part of creating the learning spaces that we have been creating for the last several years. And then, also to have impactful learning experiences, you know, and then a little mention of Into the Woods, because that's one of Steve's favorite musicals. So the journey to support student understanding of environmental stewardship also recently led to Wisconsin's first net zero school building, the acquisition of the school forest and the environmental center. And then, using a little quote from Wicked, everyone deserves a chance to fly. It's about the support we give to individual students, whether that's being in a capstone project interview, or it's the mentoring that takes place with our student board members, or the fact that Steve has served as a mentor for multiple students along the way, just because he loves to be able to support the students and their growth as people. Then this is a quote from the song Children Will Listen, and it's a quote from Into the Woods. Guide them, but step away, children will listen. And this is a picture from what Steve often describes as the happiest days, which are graduation days. And the writing of the papers and the many, many meetings, it's all in service of ensuring that every child who walks across that stage is ready for whatever steps they want to take next. And that is the purpose of our school board policy 41102, right? An Oregon diploma isn't just about earning 23 credits in the right categories. It's about ensuring our students have the skills and the dispositions necessary to be successful as the world is consistently changing. And we're going to have so much more fun talking about that later. But the fact that that is what boards have been talking about in Oregon for years and years, boards that Steve has been a part of, makes Oregon unique. And this, of course, is his 20-year service award presented at the Wisconsin State Education Conference 2 years ago. Another day, another destiny, which is a quote from Les Miserables. And you can see that, you know, everything that he's done has not just been in service of the community, but it's also been in service of his family, because his children attended here, right? His 3 daughters that you can see with him there. You know, either directly or indirectly, they are all educators. And it's not a surprise, because the heart of an educator tends to run the family. And 2 of his daughters, many people don't even know this because they have different last names now that they are married, but 2 of his daughters are Oregon School District educators. And that's something about which all of us can be very proud. And then, of course, a beautiful pre-COVID holiday with all the sons-in-laws and the dogs and the grandchildren. And then comes, I think, my favorite picture that I happen to just show any of my family members who come over when I'm working or thinking about this presentation because it's like the cutest picture ever. It's Steve and Patty and their 3 beautiful grandchildren. And there's going to be another grandchild in July. And then this lovely quote is, it's from Into the Woods. Careful the things you say, children will listen. Careful the things you do, children will see and learn. Children may not obey, but children will listen. Children will look to you for which way to turn, to learn what to be. Careful before you say, listen to me. Children will listen. And so with children listening, Steve modeled service and caring for others and standing up for your beliefs and dreaming of a better future for all kids, and more than just dreaming, but actually doing something about it. So, he's maybe leaving the board, but he's not leaving Oregon. He's a part of the fabric of our community. He will be here, and he'll continue to be here and serve in many other ways. So in closing, I have a quote from The 10,000 Doors of January by Alex Harrow. And Steve recently in a conversation quoted this to me as what he hopes for the children of our district. I hope you will find the cracks in the world and wedge them wider, so the light of the other suns shine through. I hope you will keep the world unruly, messy, full of strange manics. I hope you will run through every open door and tell stories when you return. So thank you.
Well done. Before I speak, Courtney, you want to say a few words?
Oh, I can. Well, I would also say Erica Mundinger, she's good.
Yeah.
Well, I didn't really prepare anything, but Steve, I think everything that Leslie said is obviously accurate. The community owes you a huge debt of gratitude. You have given your heart and your soul for so many years to the community, to your fellow board members, to our administrators, and most of all to our students. And it was an honor and a privilege to serve with you, and your leadership will ring as a guiding light for this district for a long time to come. So congratulations, and I look forward to spending an occasional Monday night.
I think we can make that work.
So, congratulations.
Courtney and I served for 9 years?
Oh my God.
12 years?
Well, I was on for 14.
12,
for all
I think
of
12
everybody,
years.
so.
Yeah, just part of great teams.
You guys, I don't know what you're gonna do. He's gonna leave quite a void in leadership, but he has set you all up for success, and he's set the district up for success. And for that, we thank you. I thank you as a parent of kids who came through the school district, and I thank you as a fellow board member and a member of the community. So, congratulations.
Thanks, Courtney. So I guess I'll say, speaking to the board before we have some gifts to give you. Steve, as others before me have referenced all of the accomplishments in your long and distinguished tenure on the school board, I'm going to go a little bit more personal, as you're more than a colleague to me. You're a dear friend. It's really stunning to fathom just how much you've given of yourself to the Oregon School District and to those of us, students, families, administrators, teachers, staff, school board colleagues in the community who have had the good fortune to be witnesses to and recipients of your vision, your drive, your compassion, steady hand, and work ethic. The calling I believe you feel deep inside is a blessing that brings you the greatest of joy and also an exhaustion that gets heavy at times to bear. Yet what it has shown all of us is that a fierce loyalty and fidelity to the purpose of providing a comprehensive educational foundation for all of our kids is meaningful, rewarding, and really, really important work. Not only are we preparing our students with the skills and abilities necessary to thrive in a challenging world, we've also committed ourselves to caring about each child and doing what it takes to give them the confidence and the courage to thrive. And you've always known it comes from the character of our people and their impact on the culture of our schools.
This is bold, intentional leadership, and in the Oregon School District, the constant has been you. My life has been enriched by you in so many ways. As a friend and colleague who makes me a better person, as a dad to the girls who were the most incredible summer nannies in the history of the world. Bridget even had a curriculum for my kids. And it was awesome. As a citizen who isn't afraid to stand up for what is good and what is right, as a spiritual man, and as someone who is always in for a bit of fun. For you, life is not a spectator sport, and we've developed a lasting bond over that belief. You have so many gifts. You help all of us find and strengthen our voice. You believe in possibilities and science and being able to prove your point. I think we all know, Steve expects you to prove your point. You seek the good in everyone, even when it's been a little bit difficult to do so. You are brave enough to show your emotions, evidenced time and again by your meaningful words to students who've fallen on difficult times. And you are never afraid to dig in and do the hard work. So thank you for being you. And I'll close with some wise words of a colleague of yours who also served on this board, who also happens to be my husband. Your approach has always been working tirelessly, using data to inform decision-making, listening and deliberating, and then arriving at collective action, keeping your eye on the future as well as the present, and most importantly, refusing to be distracted from the one thing that is most important, the success of all of our students. Oregon School District students have benefited from that approach for over 2 decades, and those who might aspire to leadership would do well to follow it. Thank you for all you've done on behalf of our students, families, and community. Others will follow you on the school board, yet no one will replace you. So, as a gift from all of us, here is a book of gratitude. So it's personal letters from everybody about you. And then we have some other gifts from the board that I think, Heather, you wanna? Oh, yep. So this is the one that you can open in front of everyone. And then there's some other ones that we did not bring into the school building.
Thank you so much.
Turn it over.
Yeah, I'm no good at this. Wow, thank you guys. Thank you.
Look at the
Because
book.
I'm going to try to do another marathon. Sorry, honey.
Read the note.
Oh,
So your very own
how did you
custom.
do that? Thank you so much. Oh.
And of course, we have a WASB plaque for you, for your dedicated service to the school district, 1999 to April 2021. And then I believe Mike Carr has something too. And then we need some pictures with all this stuff.
So we did have a meeting today, and we talked about baseball, and we talked about your favorite quote.
Yeah. And what did I say? I said, we did it because it's fair. Right?
So what we put together from the athletic department is, this is a replica of a replica. So this says, thank you for your immeasurable dedication and service to students in the Oregon community. It's a replica of your jersey when you played.
Oh, cool.
Wow.
It says OHS Baseball MVP, Oregon Youth Baseball Board Member, 12 years, 2-time conference champion, Oregon Board of Education for 22 years.
Oh, thank you.
So on behalf of our department, thank you so much for everything you've done.
Thank you. Is that done now? I brought, my wife never comes to these meetings and she really doesn't even watch, but I wanted, I wanted her to be here because all the thanks are thanks for her, because you know, you serve here, it's a lot of meals alone and a lot of nights alone. So thank you, honey. That was for you too.
He
you don't do this for this, you don't expect this at the end. And I certainly never expected to be here for 22 years. And it just happened that way. And lots of great boards. You saw the pictures of the boards and the administrators. That's one of the reasons I wanted to do that presentation at the beginning, because it's not an I thing, it's a we thing. And this community has done it. And I'm glad that people think that I've helped along the way and led that, but it's really a collective effort, and you can see that in it. I want to leave you with just a couple things that have driven me in our learning. And it was fun. We were with boards that learned a lot and read a lot, and Courtney was part of that, and Scott, way back when we started looking at a changing world. I want to leave you with two stories, that books we read and things that rang with us. One was a story about Greg Mortensen, who was a climber and had a mishap on K2 and had to come down off the mountain in serious health condition. And he was recuperating in a town in Pakistan, little tiny town up in the mountains. And he asked to see their school. Here's the quote from that book. He was appalled to see 82 children kneeling on the frosty ground in the open. The village had no school and shared a teacher with 3 other villages. The children sat in a neat circle, copying their multiplication tables. Most scratched in the dirt.
Most scratched in the dirt with sticks they brought for that purpose. There was a fierceness in their desire to learn, despite how mightily everything was stacked against them.
So that's the Irish part of me. Got to get the German back in. You guys have seen the Bohemian sometimes when I kind of, we've had a few phone calls over the years. You send the Bohemians, the German ones out, so the Irish kind of takes over sometimes. I got to get the German back in. But, the phrase in there was a fierceness in their desire to learn that rung with our board and with us. That's why you do that. It's the passion that keeps you through the really hard times. When you think it's bad, it's because of that. Then the other quote that struck with us is Ken Robinson did a TED Talk in 2004 about creativity. If you haven't seen that as a board member, go Google it, because it is so inspirational. I see Courtney shaking her head, yes, because that drove us. That was one of the things that really motivated the early paper writing, is Ken Robinson's brilliant 20-minute talk on creativity. And he tells in there a story about, I'm forgetting her name now. Patty, help me. Anyway, he went and talked to a woman about how she got where she was. And she said, when she was 7 years old, her mom took her to a specialist because she was acting up in school, wasn't able to sit still, wasn't reaching any of her potential, and mom thought something was wrong with her. So she was in the office with this specialist, and they talked for about 20 minutes. And then the doctor says, I need to excuse myself for a while and talk to your mom. Can you sit here for a minute? And so as he left the room, he turned on the radio, and mom and the specialist went outside and watched through a two-way mirror. And the girl started to dance and move around in the room to the music. And the doctor, as Ken Robinson tells us, ma'am, there's nothing wrong with your child. She's a dancer. Take her to dance school. Jillian Lind is her name. And Jillian Lind talked about going to dance school and how for the first time in her life, learning meant something, because she was with other kids who thought and learned and felt by moving. And she later became the choreographer of Cats and other musicals of Andrew Lloyd Webber. And so here's how Ken Robinson ends his talk. And you might hear a phrase in here that rings true. We have to rethink the fundamental principles upon which we educate our children. We need to see our children for the hope they are. Our task is to educate their whole being. Irish again. I can get it now. I wrecked the dramatic part of this, you know. Our task is to educate the whole being so that they can face the future. One we will not see, but they will. And our job is to help them make something of it. You know, those two quotes really have been the driving force for all of us, not just me, but for all of us. So, you know, I talk to school boards and train them about their role. And, you know, sometimes boards get in trouble and they disagree. And we go back to what's your principal role as a school board member. And I've come to the conclusion, both in my legal profession and having served for 23 years, that we're stewards, right? We're not one individual on a board. We're not individuals on the board. We're a board. And we as a board are stewards for the future of our children. So I've got a couple stewardship gifts. John Tanner will recognize this. I'm going to give this to Troy as the current chair of visioning. This was, Courtney will remember this. This was on a wall that we were brainstorming our visioning process for, and it's still very relevant today. It's like Andy has that favorite budget sheet. You know, this is my favorite visioning sheet. So you're going to get this, Troy, and guard it. I made a copy just in case. With that, and then this is a button that Brian gave us the first meeting that he was superintendent. It's the compass, right? And I hopefully will get everyone those. But Mary, I'm leaving.
Thank you very much. Thank you.
So I pass that on to you. And with that, I'm done. Thank you. It's been a real pleasure. I hope I made a difference in the district, and thanks for the opportunity. You know, people. It's what 22 years ago, Chuck Teeter called me up, former school board president, and said that there's a vacancy on the school board. Would you apply for it? And it changed my life. So thanks, everyone. I might need those other gifts. Thanks, everyone. That was really, really sweet. That takes, are you done with superintendent's report? Okay. Closing, future agenda. I think we've got a pretty good outline of where we're headed with this. Check out anybody? Heather? Tim? Nothing. No. Troy? Okay. Well, we've got one more piece of business to do. We've got a short closed session to go into. So I'll consider a motion to move into closed session to discuss vacation leave options for administrators under Wisconsin statute 1985-1C. So I'll need a motion to approve going into closed session. We're not going to come into open session then. So I need a motion to go into closed and then second.
I'll make that motion.
Is there a second? Okay. Okay, we need a roll call on that.
Mr. Pankratz?
Yes.
Ms. Bijak?
Yes.
Ms. Garrison?
Yes.
Mr. Maring?
Yes.
Ms. Flanagan?
Yes.
Mr. LeBrun?
Yes.
Mr. Zach?
Yes. Board will go into closed session, or we don't just meet in here, or we're going to go over to the other room.
I think we can stay.
Okay.
Yeah, there's not enough chairs over there right now.
Yeah, okay, so, and we'll stay distanced in here, so, thanks, everyone. We'll get going in a couple minutes, I just want to say thank you.